TheMotorcycleBoss here.
And I'm Batman.
And today we're working on a
1997 Honda Shadow 600.
Today, this bike needs new forks. Or new fork seals. This one's leaking
Oil.
It's leaking oil out of the front forks. So we're gonna replace the seals. We got aftermarket ones, we got new ones. So we're gonna take these out. I'm gonna show you the process. So hang tight. So you're gonna know if your fork seals are leaking because right here on this chrome part, right above this dust seal, if you put your fingers around it and slide it off, you'll have like an oily residue on your fingers. These should be bone dry. If you have any oil here on the sides or up here on this lip, it's leaking. Or another indicator is if you look further up, you're gonna see this line right here. And over here on this side, it has the same thing, has a line. That's telling you whenever the fork compresses, it's pushing oil up to that level, and this is where you'll get a lot of the residue. Whenever you see lines right here, that's a really good indicator to show that your fork seals are bad. These are really important to change out because if you're getting oil coming out of here, gravity is going to pull it down this tube, and it's actually going to get on your rotor and it's going to get on your brakes. Oil in your brake system is not a good idea. So we're going to take care of this really quick. First thing you need to do when you're going to be doing a fork service is you're going to relieve pressure off the front forks. You're going to lift the bike up and make sure however way you lift it up, it is not being supported by the front forks. Just get the front tire off the ground and then you're going to move on to the next step. After we raise the tire off the ground, we're going to take this brake caliper off, and it's just held in by these two bolts, these two mounting bolts. Once we take these out, we can slide this caliper off of the rotor. The reason we do this is on some bikes, if you still have this connected to the forks and you take the tire off, it's going to get stuck between the rotor and the rim, and you're going to have to take it off anyway because you're servicing the forks and they're connected to the forks. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that. This bike only has one on the left side. Some bikes have two. Just take them both off, and it's just going to be these two mounting bolts. Thank you. Alright, to get this off, you're just going to wiggle it a little bit and just slide it off the rotor. And up here it's got a little clip. I'm going to take that out. Now, you don't want to put too much unnecessary stress on this brake line, so I'm going to actually use zip tie. Thank you. Just so I can put it through one of these mounting holes to try and relieve some of the pressure. Just tie it to anything you can. Just get it up and out of the way. So I'm just going to attach it to this right here. Hey Batman, can you hold this really quick? Thank you. There we go. Alright, we're going to take the pinch bolts out next, which is going to be here and here. And this pinches over the axle that goes through. On this bike, there's only these two on this side. When we turn this, sometimes you'll have a bike that has them over here as well, but this one doesn't. So we're going to take care of these ones first. These are size 6 Allens.
Samuel Jackson.
So, in order for me to get this out, this is a hex shape. Some people will actually take a long bolt and they're going to put it through here and they'll have it like bent at an angle so they can twist it off. This is a front axle key. It has different sizes to fit different applications. So for this one, I believe it's this. No, that one's too small. You set it inside there and it'll fit right in. And then it has a hole on this side so you can put your ratchet on it and you can twist it off. So I'm going to put this through, put our ratchet in, we're going to start twisting this off. Hopefully it's not too tight where I have to get a breaker, which it might be. Oh wait, no, got it. That side's spinning on me? No, it's not. It's coming. Now when you take this part out, the front tire is going to come through. Sometimes you have to punch it out. Just be careful with it.
And if we drop it, you just edit that out.
Right? I think I'm good on this side. Alright, probably gonna have to push it out. Wanna grab a punch?
Alright, so we're going to use this drift because the axle ended up getting stuck. So I'm going to use a dead blow. There you go. Alright. You got that.
Alright, you can take this out. Alright, so the axle is going to come out on the other side. Now watch between both sides of the tire. There might be little spacers, and sometimes they're not always exactly the same, so be careful which one goes on which side. Now, what he just attached is a speed sensor. It's just a mechanical speed sensor. It goes up to the controls up there. And I have a spacer on this side, and I have the axle that just came out. We're going to roll that away. So we have to get this off the front fender because they're connected to the forks, and we have to take the forks out, so obviously it has to go. You just look inside here. Now it's a lot easier now that we have the front tire off. We're going to unscrew these. This is a 10 millimeter. Just going to put it on there. I'm just going to break those loose. We got one more on this side. This bike's been sitting out in the elements for 2 years, so a lot of these bolts are on pretty tight. Alright.
Give it to me!
There you go. Alright, this is still connected to the speed sensor, so we're just setting a towel underneath it. I'm just going to hold it a little bit out of the way. Make sure it doesn't get scratched, have a towel under it. Alright, ready for the next part. So, we already did the other side, as you can see, my friend has holding over here. But you're going to have these caps right here. Over here, this is the top yoke, and then down here is the bottom yoke. And these are the two positions that the fork is being held in. There's bolts right here called pinch bolts that will loosen this fork tube, and we'll be able to just pull it right out. So first, we'll get this cap off. There you go. They'll uncover an Allen right here, and then there's another one down here. We'll get that one off. There you go. And then we see you have to look at everything that's connected to this. We have a bolt here. There's a bolt here for the turn signal, and there's a bolt down here. So I'm going to take this, or you don't have to take it completely off, but I'm going to loosen this turn signal just so that we can slide the fork out. It doesn't have to be completely off, just loose so it can move. So normally what you're going to do, you're going to loosen this one first, and sometimes these can be on pretty tight. And like I said, you don't have to take them completely out, just get it loose. Now, The reason you do this one first is because this cap right here could be on really tight. So you loosen this one and leave this bottom one on really tight. And you're gonna loosen this. Don't take it off because there's spring tension. It's probably gonna pop up and it's gonna be a big mess. So just loosen that one, just break the seal, and it'll be easier to take off. Because when you have it off and you're trying to hold on to a smooth cylinder, it's gonna be really difficult unless you have an impact. So now when I loosen up this bottom one, the whole fork should get loose and slide out. Nice to have someone holding it so it doesn't slide out underneath. Just loosen this one up. And then you can just wiggle it out. And let this hold it. Slide right out. Go ahead. Alright, and that's a fork out. Alright, so now once you get it off, we're going to flip it around really quick. Turn it upside down. I don't know if you can see this, but on the bottom there's going to be a bolt right on in there, and it holds the damper assembly inside here down. And if we don't loosen that bolt, or we don't take that bolt out, we're not going to be able to separate the two halves as needed. So there you go. I'm going to use a deep Allen socket. I think this is one that's 8 millimeter. We're going to drop it on in there. Now if you take this bolt completely out, it's going to have oil coming out. Probably not going to be a whole lot of oil, but you don't want to get it all over the place. So you might want to just probably at least just loosen it for now. But me, I like to completely take it out. That's just me. So we'll see if this impact will work. If you don't have an impact, this job might be a little bit difficult. So let's see. All right. So, okay. Things really in there. So now we have a hole on top. We're going to drain the oil out into this bucket. Just go ahead and pump the fork up and down a few times. This is what it's looking like. You can see that. So now we got the oil taken out of here by pumping this after we took the bottom bolt out. We're going to lift this up as high as it can go to relieve spring tension under this cap. We're going to take this cap off next, and this is why we told you to loosen this before you took it off of the bike. This top cap is a 19 millimeter. I'm going to use an impact gun for this. Alright, make sure rotation's good. And when you do this, don't take it off completely. Try to loosen it and keep your fingers around it in case there's more spring tension, because once this comes off, it's going to shoot up. And make sure your face isn't in front of this. So right there. Now, there's a spring tension, so I'm going to let this up slowly. So there's your fork cap. And then we're going to slide down a little bit. We got this spacer. This is all going to be oily, so keep that in mind. And this is just a hollow spacer, there's nothing in there. We're going to keep coming down. Right there. Now we got all the oil out, so we're going to turn this around. Alright, we got those the fork cap and the spacer out, so now we're going to twist this around. We're going to have a spacer and a spring coming out. Now I have a filter at the bottom of this funnel, so that's good to have. There's your spacer, go ahead and grab that. And then we're going to have a spring. Now notice how there's tight coils up here and there's open coils down here. The tight coils go to the top. If you have a service manual, it should tell you that. And then we got the damper assembly with a rebound spring. So this rebound spring right here. And we're just going to set those aside and clean them. And that's the last of what's in here. The only thing holding this together at this point is a retaining clip, dust seal, oil seal, 2 bushings right in here, and we're going to work on that part next. Alright, so up here we have a dust seal. We're going to take this dust seal off. You're just going to take a flathead screwdriver and just pry on the sides. You're just going to go around and pry it up. Be careful not to injure your Batman. Or to scratch this, because you don't want to scratch that. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time with your new oil seal sealing like it's supposed to. Alright, it's coming up. And this just slides up and out. And it's going to help if you keep these parts in order, so you know which way they went in. Now, down in here, it's probably going to be hard to see, but there's going to be a little clip down in here. Here, there's a little clip, kind of like a circlip kind of thing. Just take a screwdriver and pry it out. Just be careful not to scratch the actual fork tube itself with your screwdriver. Let me get a helping hand really quick. I'm going to take a pick as well. Help me pry this out. Just go in, dig it out. I'm going to use this pick to hold that one in place. I'm going to go around the other side. Pry this side up. Alright. Now, it ends up as like a C-clip right here. Make sure you don't pull this out. And you're actually just going to lift this up and over, so you don't scratch it. Now, the only thing holding this together is a seal down in there. And what happens, we're going to pull this apart, and you're going to have the 2 bushings, and I'll show you that in a second. They're going to hit each other, and this will actually separate. It'll pop apart. So, let me grab this really quick.
Let me do it!
Into like a slide hammer motion. Just keep jerking it. There you go. So now that pops apart. And when you pop this out of the bottom fork tube, you're going to be left with something that looks like this. When you separate them, you're going to have 4 components. You have the fork, oil seal itself here. This one's bad. A spacer, washer kind of thing. You're going to have the outer bush and the inner bush. This inner one slides up and down into this tube. Slides up and down. Then you have this one that sits in a recess up here and stays there and allows this tube to slide up and down smoothly. Both of these have a PTFE coating right here where you see it's gray. The gray is going to be on the inside of this one. But if you turn this around, you can see like right here where this splits, there's this goldish sheen to it, and that means that it's bad. You don't want to see any gold on here. However, the guy that I'm doing this for, he's on an extreme budget and he doesn't really care about this. So I'm going to end up rebuilding it, leaving this here. I'm just going to let him know. And then in order to get this off, you have a slit right here for your outer or your inner bush. You just take a screwdriver right there, split it, and then push it up. It'll come right off. And then you can see what that looks like. Here you go. Then you're going to have this one that comes out. And if you look inside, I'm looking inside here, it looks totally fine. I'm not seeing any gold on the inside of that. The outside doesn't matter, but this one definitely looks pretty good. And you're going to have your spacer. There's really no inspection for that. And then you have the bad seal. Now when you take this out, there's a direction that it has to be. So if you look here, we're going to have this like double lip thing facing inward. On the other side, we have a lip that's very, very snug to the fork tube itself. So we're going to have to be sure to make sure that we have it facing the right direction, otherwise you're going to replace it and it's going to leak right away. So we can go ahead and slide this off as long as we remember the direction it's supposed to be in. Actually, hold on. Now, what I like to do, because I don't have all the special equipment that other shops have, so I got to improvise sometimes. But we're going to reuse this seal. We're not going to put it back in, but we're going to use this to buffer the reassembly process. And you want to cut this in half. There's a metal band going through here, and when we cut this in half, it's going to make it easier to get it out of the recess we're going to slam it into later. So I'm going to take just my mini bolt cutters and just cut this in half. Just like that. Just like that. And now we're going to use this for the next step. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to take this, I believe this is called a fork leg, I think. We're just going to clean the outside, clean the inside. You can see it's just a hollow tube in there. We have to make sure that we clean all this up here, and when you clean this, you're going to be looking for cracking. Look for any like pits, rust, anything like that. Go ahead and spray some brake cleaner down there and get it all out. Just get, because you're going to have like sludge sitting on the bottom of this.